All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and just run through some of the ground rules for today. As you guys know, my name is Nikita. I'm going to be your host today. Thank you guys so much for joining us again. We're really excited to have you right now. We know there's a lot going on in the world, and we really appreciate you spending this evening with us for a little while. We're just going to go over the ground rules, basically respect. We got a lot of different people on this call from all different ethnicities, backgrounds, beliefs. So respect is absolutely paramount in this call. Please keep yourself muted. That will be on the lower left side of your screen at all times. There will be a chance for you guys to come on and do a Q&A. Please limit that to questions instead of statements. We don't have a lot of time, and we want to try to get to as many people as possible during this chat. So we appreciate everyone respecting each other's time right now. I'm excited to have you guys here tonight because we have two really special people on the call. And an old man once told me that the older you get, you realize there's no answers, there's just stories. And of course, the world isn't made of atoms, it's made of stories. The stories we tell ourselves in order to live. Stories of love, stories of hurt, stories of laughter, stories of fear. Story is part of us. It's part of our DNA. And even when the body goes to sleep, our mind stays up all night dreaming and telling itself stories. An author named, I believe, Lisa Crone shared something that story is more crucial to our evolution than opposable thumbs. You see, opposable thumbs tell us, let us hang on, but stories tell us what to hang on to. So it's no surprise that during this emotional time of change that we have the incredible poet and multi-platinum songwriter In-q joining us tonight. You see, he tells stories through words, and his words are like art supplies. And in today's day and age, we're seeing that imagery and words and communication are some of the most powerful tools that we have in our arsenal to inspire change. He's a modern philosopher, and we're so excited and thrilled to have him here today. We also have on the call Tom Shadyac, who is our modern philosopher, film director, and we're really excited to have you guys here today during this conversation because we know there's a lot of hurt out there, there's a lot of pain, and it's a time for listening. So I'm going to let Tom jump on right now and take over the conversation for right now. Tom? T Shady, you're on mute.
Look at the old guy getting the technology right. Hello, everybody. Nicole, I'm looking for Q. Is he on? Hopefully he's on somewhere.
Yes, he's on right now.
Oh, man. Where are you, brother? I'm looking for you.
I'm right here, where I've always been.
All right, cool, man.
Good case, man.
I'm so happy to see you in such a difficult time, and no better voice than yours to speak to this. And also, I want to know if my friend and young older brother is on. Jamon, is he here? Did Jamon make it?
Yeah, Jamon's on.
Yeah.
Where are you, man? Is he also on the front page and I'm missing him?
Right.
There you are. There you are, handsome. Cool. Okay.
All right. Ready?
So guys, thank you. We really do respect that you have taken some time to join this conversation. Nicole, that was a really appropriate and beautiful introduction. When Nicole came to me about a month ago to just open a space where we could dialogue about what was happening, it was all Corona. It was all coronavirus, and we thought it was an opportunity to speak to what that really difficult teacher was here to share with us, to open up to us. And in that time, the world shifted again seismically. And we have to acknowledge that seismic shift. And then I'm not the right voice to speak into that shift. That's a voice that belongs much more to my friend Jamond or my friend Joy than it does to me. And we're going to honor that tonight by, at the very least, allowing Jamon to tell his story to you before In-q comes on to open us up to the mystery of poetry and the impact of what poetry can do, the spoken word can do to create new avenues for change. It's a painful time. I'm sure there are many mothers on this call. People have given birth. It is a messy, painful process, but out of it, out of the blood and out of the tearing of flesh and the stretching of flesh, something beautiful comes. All of us, life. And this is a birth right now. And it's painful and it's messy and it hurts and something beautiful is being born. I think we need to keep the faith that something beautiful is being born. I think you've all heard the Sam Jackson quote that the water broke and now the labor begins. So we're all in a bit of labor. Let's consider this call a bit of labor. And as Nicole said, no answers tonight. And it's no accident we have somebody in queue who literally has named himself after the power of asking questions. So let's not look for answers tonight. There may be some ideas, some points of view. Let's just settle into being, as Rilke said, being courageous enough to live the question. I'm going to read you a Mary Oliver quote, and then I want to introduce Jaman. She said, "Let me keep my distance always from those who think they have the answer. Let me keep company always with those who say, look, and laugh in astonishment and bow their heads in reverence." So let's look tonight at each other, at Q, at Jamand, and bow our head in reverence at what appears before us, humbly. I don't think I've ever been more humbled by the conversation that's happening right now. I have done so many things that are not quite up to speed of the current conversation. I'm having to learn at as quick a pace as I can. I want to be gentle with myself. I hope you're gentle with yourself without losing the urgency of social change that's needed. So Jamand, are you there? I just see your name. I lost your face. Can you join us with your video? Okay, cool.
Yes, sir.
All right, cool. I'm going to introduce you. I don't know how to introduce you. It's kind of like introducing a comet or the sunrise. And I consider him like my son. I don't know if he would be so complimented or insulted by that, but he is certainly a family member to me. I started something which I told you guys a little bit about last week in dialogue with an at-risk neighborhood because I began to teach there at the University of Memphis and Lemoyne-Owen College, a historical Black college. And I thought I'd be teaching, and of course I was taught. I thought I was going to make a difference. Of course, I was made different. And it's because of people like Jaman. And we appear as a rock climbing gym. We have this big 5-acre campus. We made the movie Brian Banks there. We mentored 30 kids of color there, gave them access to the movie making process. We're going to do more of that in the future. I believe art is a service industry. I believe all industries are actually service industries, and that's what we're growing into. But we started this place for the kids to safely recreate because our neighborhood was the most violent neighborhood in America. In fact, in the past 3 weeks, we've had 4 kids succumb to violence or be shot or again, be a victim of violence. Jaman can speak much more precisely and painfully about that. But we do much more than rock climb and yoga and dance. We offer nutrition, healthy nutrition at a juice bar called Juice Almighty after Bruce Almighty, the film that I was a part of. We've turned into a bit of a grocery store now. We've given out groceries. We gave 200 lunch. We're still giving 200 lunches a day to kids in need. We've made face masks for the community, distributed face masks, hand sanitizer. There's a lot that we do. We have clothing, a clothing drive going constantly. And all we really are what the human body knows to do that we've forgotten as human beings. When the body is sick, the intelligence of the body, which are beyond our consciousness, know to rush resources into that illness. And what we've done is we've moved resources out of these neighborhoods that are manifestations of our sickness as a society from enslaving a population, et cetera, and not living up to the promises of our country. We believe we're part of the immune system that's rushing in. And the conversation now is all about investing. And I hope you will consider investing in communities like ours, whether it's through us or others. It's really important that we act as part of the immune system. So this young man, Jaman, is an old soul. He's probably 85 years old, sitting in a body. He just turned 20. And Jaman, tell him a little bit about you, how you came to Memphis Rock Shoot, just a little bit about your history. And again, this is the teacher today, guys. I'm simply want to provide a platform for Jaman and for Q.
Hello, everyone. Jamon. Hello. I'm pretty sure I'm not as famous as many of you are, but something I am is a voice for the ones that need to be heard. And the ones that need to be heard aren't just, black people or brown people. It's people in low income communities. Because I have a lot of Caucasian friends, Hispanic friends, and black friends, but it's all about where you come from. It is what you can reach out to. And South Memphis is not a lot. We didn't have a lot of attributes and things that we can use as young kids growing up, no matter what color you were. We didn't have a lot of jobs that parents can get. So that's why a lot of crimes went on, not because they wanted to do it, because they had to do it, because they had to feed their kids. A lot of people say, or you hear on the news often, that thugs or gangsters are a product of their environment. But us as human beings, or the people that's even watching, fail to ask, what are the environment a product of? Who set the environment up for them to live in? Who made this for them? Or we don't ask ourselves, how can we fix this? We always just look at the product that came out of it instead of the whole place itself. And Memphis Rocks, it kind of made a new environment. It showed me a better way. My mom introduced me to Memphis Rocks a year ago. I was still in school, and I wasn't the best person at the time, but she introduced me to Memphis Rocks, and I met Tom and I met Chris, and I felt a lot of love. They showed me that I was more than a thug out here. I got affiliated in gangs at a young age. I've been a part of the CRIP since I was 12 years old. They didn't make me as a person. And meeting those guys showed me that they didn't make me as a person. It led me to talking to kids. Kind of made me want to tear up. It led me to talking to kids and mentoring kids. Because I know how it is to be judged, I know how it is to be judged just by being looked at or not even opening your mouth, or someone seeing your past and predicting your future. A lot of people on this call may have a lot of different pasts, but we're all on this call together right now. A lot of you all don't know my past and don't know where I came from, but something you can do is help my future and help my people's future. I'm not just talking about black people once again. Black lives do matter, but I'm talking about low income communities. I have a lot of friends that don't look like me and live in low income communities, and all they need is a push or someone to come and see what's going on. And I promise you all will feel the pain. You will feel that you'll need to do something.
Jamon?
Yes.
Jamon? Hey, can you take off your headphones? Because I think people will be able to hear you a little clearer. There's a bit of a fuzz coming through. Can you take them off for us? While Jamon's doing that, I just want to let everyone know, like he said, he's been a member of the CRIPS gang since he was 8 years old. He's not a gang banger, as he'll explain, but he is still a gang member, and his story is pretty fascinating of what he does now. Jamon, you back?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it's probably a little better.
Thank you, Jamon.
You're welcome. But I guarantee you all, like, if you all step foot in Soulsville, you will feel the passion. You will feel that there's been hurt and hardship there. Like I was telling Nicole the other day, people that live in low income communities, especially like Soulsville, are like infants, are like children, right? If you put a child on the ground and you spread 5 toys out, it's going to reach to the nearest one because that's the only one they can reach at the time. Without a parent saying, come on, you can do it, baby. Without somebody trying to encourage their child to do something, it's only going to reach for what's in front of it, no matter if it's good or bad. That's why we need people in these communities. We need funding in these communities. We need help in these communities. We need more jobs. We need more people like Tom that just don't throw their money, but actually take their time and come and meet people. You know, Tom didn't even know me in 2019. He knew my mom. I met Tom Shadyac through my mother. My mother passed when I was still in high school. He paid for the whole funeral. You know, and I can never in my life repay him for that. I can never in my life repay him for that. But something I can do is make sure my mom's dream doesn't die. Make sure his dream doesn't die. The last thing my mom told me is that she wanted to see the gym open because it changed me. I wasn't the best person in the streets always. You know, I have a history, but now I realize I can help kids that was confused like me and didn't know they had a different path. This was my way out. A lot of people, you know, discourage me or hate me because I'm still affiliated. And I tell young kids that want to get affiliated, you shouldn't do this. They don't like me because of that. But Memphis Rocks have showed me, man, doing wrong doesn't make you a man. You know, being out here and just because you're a part of something doesn't make you an animal if you separate yourself from those animals. It kind of showed me how to lead the pack. And that's what I'm doing. And that's what I wish and hope you all can do is lead the pack, man. Like, if I had it myself, my community would be on top right now. It'll be more businesses. I'll be trying to help fundraise, but I can't, man. Like, I'm so glad like he asked me onto this call because now I can be the voice for people who need to hear this. I grew up in a home with a single mother and two sisters. I seen my mom go through racial things you wouldn't even imagine. She was a janitor almost her whole life. Her whole life. And if you think of a janitor, that's the lowest job you can do in a business building. But the man who owned Memphis Rocks became my mom's best friend. He didn't treat her like the lowest paid worker. He didn't treat her like the guinea pig, like the rest of her jobs. When he paid for her funeral, he made sure it was on top. That's all I'm asking you all, man. Just give this place a chance. Don't just say you're gonna do it. We only here once. We are only here once. I lost a lot of people. When I was 16, lost my best friend in my arms to gang violence. You know, I refuse to lose another soul to it. That's why we need places like this open, because it's more than a gym. We talk to kids about mental awareness, sexual and physical abuse, because they need it in those environments. It's not about what can you get to, it's about what's in front of you. Who built those environments for it? We didn't put ourselves here. We did not put ourselves here. That's what I always try to tell people, man. We don't choose to be here. If I could be somewhere else, I would be there. But this is my home, and I can't let it go. I can't run away. We need help, man. And I appreciate you all for letting me talk. But I hope you all listen. And just remember that thing I said, it's not always about what comes out of the product, the environment. Who made the environment for them? Remember that. No, it wasn't always like this. When my mom was growing up, it wasn't any drugs. It wasn't all this stuff. So who made the environment for them? Who put the guns here for them? We need help, you all. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. I know you've opened hearts. You certainly touched mine. Before I get to Q, just tell us quickly, CRIP meant something before, and it means something now to you. What does it mean now to you?
So I got put on CRIP when I was 12 years old, and I'm 20 now. So at the time, it was crazy, ruthless, insane pistol slanger. It was, something stupid, right? I was out here doing things you couldn't imagine, hurting my own Black people, hurting people, other people. But when I realized and woke myself up and seen that I wasn't hurting anyone but myself, I started banging by the other meaning of CRIP, which is community reproduction and process. Is to build and upbring your community. It's to uplift what's been broken down and torn down by the government. That's what my meaning of CRIP stands for, community reproduction and process. And anybody that follows me or that isn't even affiliate, you can still be a part of it. It doesn't have to be a gang. It doesn't have to mean you're CRIP. If you're for your community, that's the CRIP I'm banging. We're here to uplift, man. We're here to make things better that other people have torn down. We're here to knock out some of these liquor stores that's on every block, every other block, and put grocery stores there, or more places like Memphis Rock so kids can learn and talk about sexual, physical, and mental abuse because it's real.
All right, Jamon, thank you. Obviously stay on the call. There's going to be questions later. You may be the appropriate person to meet those questions, certainly better than I. In-q, not a lot of people could follow the deep soul of Jamon, but I know you can because I know your soul and his soul come from the same place. Somehow I have mystic poetry in my background, so I recognize the gift of the poet. And Q has the gift. It's like comedians. Comedians are not made, they're born. You can refine the talent, but the talent comes from the source. And In-q has a gift from the source. Poetry has been defined, Hafez said it's someone who can pour light into a cup and quench your wholly parched mouth. And Q is that person. So Q, it's so great to see you. Obviously been following you, read your book. Your book, guys, everyone please get his book. This is not a promotion idea, but it's really to promote growth, and his book is brilliant. So brother, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jamon. That was amazing, man. I appreciate your vulnerability. I was very moved by everything that you said, and I appreciate you showing up. I really don't have a lot to say, in terms of following that. I would much rather listen. To be quite honest, there were certain things that I had already committed to, and this was one of them, and I'm certainly happy to be here with every person that's on the Zoom call, wherever you are. I'm wishing you love. But we stopped booking anything else because I don't want to hear from myself right now. I really don't. And what you just said and shared was very powerful. So, Tom, if you have a specific direction you want this to go, I'm certainly open to it. But I don't have any specificity myself.
Well, I'm with you. I felt the less I talk tonight, the better. I have a feeling you are feeling the same. You can be the judge of what I'll ask of you, because I believe your poems aren't you talking. I believe your poems are the divine spirit incarnating. And so you have said before that your greatest hope is to disappear.
When I'm on stage, not in reality.
But I understand, but I believe that you have a clean instrument, and I'm happy to suggest a poem that you might want to share. I think it might be a good way to kick us off. If you have one that you think might start us off.
What did you want to hear?
You could start with Change, Protect and Serve, Dear White America, whatever you feel in your heart speaks to your...
Okay, we'll do the Dear White Americans poem, which is it's a poem that I've done many times over the years. It was written maybe 4 years ago, and my greatest hope is that I can retire it. But unfortunately, it's still relevant. And when I usually perform this, I ask everybody to close their eyes just so they get in their own space, but I can't see any of you anyway, so. How do we talk about the problems without feeding them? If we ignore them, we most likely keep repeating them. If we explore them, we run the risk of reinforcing them. So how then do we get down to the source of them? Dear white Americans, imagine if the roles were reversed and white people were enslaved by black people first. And for almost 300 years, they forced us into work. And they beat us, raped us, and tortured us, and then they went to church. And they treated us like dirt. And they chained us, they whipped us, and they told us we were cursed. And they sold us on the auction blocks like that was what we're worth. And they outlawed us to read or write or vote, but what was worse, they would hang us by our necks so that the witnesses could look and see our bodies slowly swaying from a tree like a fruit. Imagine what that took. If generations passed before the melting pot could cook, and our nation had to go to war before we closed the book, but freedom wasn't peaceful. It was as brutal as it looked. Segregation isolated us because of how we looked, and neighborhoods were separate. We educated separate. We congregated, dated, mated, ate, and drank separate. They made us travel separate. They made our toilets separate. The hospitals were separate. The telephones were separate. They made our pools separate. They made our parks separate. And when it wasn't separate, they would split us into sections so that they would get the best seats while we would get the worst. I want you to imagine if the history reversed, that we were the ones terrorized by the Ku Klux Klan. And a pointy white hood hunted down the white man. And police would beat us daily without any repercussion. See, the justice system's blind, but only to its own corruption. So people started demonstrating, marching, and protesting. They couldn't take it any longer. They had had enough. And when enough people have enough, the people have the power. So a coalition joined the fight, but civil rights was ours. And the boycotts were ours. And the sit-ins were ours. And the riots were ours. And the leaders were ours. And when our leaders lost their lives, the grief was also ours. So we raised our fists in conscious militants to be empowered. And America was moving at 1,000,000 miles an hour, but we'd taken strides politically to even out the powers. Now educated whites could become lawyers or professors, doctors or directors, bankers or investors. But mostly our jobs were still industrial in nature. So when they closed the factories, they didn't need our labor. And this affected more than just the money in our wallets, because areas that once were working class became impoverished. Imagine how that felt to be unable to provide, to look your children in the eyes without a 9-to-5. So families were broken. And neighborhoods were broken, and liquor stores were open, and gun stores were open, and drugs were on the rise, but the reasons were unspoken, and gangs were on the rise, but the reasons were unspoken. And while pop culture painted us as being dumb or dangerous, we struggled to survive inside a system that was blaming us, and still somehow we thrived out of all of that upheaval to amplify the unheard voices of our people. But imagine all the unheard voices of our people. Imagine if you didn't have to imagine that you weren't treated equal. Imagine the resentment you would have against the system if white males were disproportionately cycled into prisons. Imagine your aggression. If people were afraid of you because of your complexion, if people crossed the street when you were walking their direction just because of their suspicion, now imagine your suspicion. If when you talked about it, other races didn't listen. In fact, they made you wrong for even bringing up oppression. Their perception was for you to stop acting like a victim. Imagine the disconnection. Then finally, a white person wins the presidential election, and half the country celebrates this symbol of progression, but the other half is moving in the opposite direction. So the next president we elect is a blatant racist. We still have unacknowledged privilege, still voting rights restrictions, still biased cops on traffic stops, and widespread division from those poverty-stricken to those making decisions. Still uneven nutrition, underfunded education, still job discrimination, still home discrimination, still loan discrimination, still pay discrimination, still dealing with that normal everyday discrimination. And Michael Brown was white, and Trayvon Martin was white, and Freddie Gray was white, and Eric Garner was white, and Oscar Grant was white, and Sandra Bland was white, and Stephon Clark was white, and George Floyd was white, and Breonna Taylor was white, and Ahmaud Arbery was white, and so were countless others. Yet our country wants us to believe that racism is over. Keep loving through the violence. Keep loving through the hate. Keep loving through the silence. Keep loving through debate. Keep loving through confusion. Keep loving through regret. Keep loving through the madness. Keep loving through the mess. Keep loving through forgiveness. Keep loving through the threats. Keep loving through indifference. Keep loving through distress. Keep loving through the changes. Keep loving through the death. Keep loving until loving is the only thing that's left.
Amen, brother. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Jamon, let me ask you, why don't I just ask you, how did that poem feel here, and did that feel like some of the reflection of an experience for you?
Yeah, man, that was deep, and like you hit it like right on the needle. Seriously, man, you hit it right on the needle. Like, imagine if your skin color was clothes, and you could just take it off and hang it up. All the black people in the world would do it, not because they hate the color of their skin, because they're afraid to be in it. And that was the perfect example, man. Like, it's one thing to get hated by someone that doesn't look like you, but we get hated by each other too. Not because of we're animals, it's because of circumstances and situations in the community, you know, where you live. So being black, man, is hard. It's hard to be understood, because even when you're talking educated, somebody will frown their face like you the most stupid person they ever talked to. You would hit the nail on point about crossing the street. That happened so many times to me. Even one incident, man, where someone dropped their wallet and they actually started walking up because they thought I was about to do something to them. I was just trying to give it back. And especially about the police, that hit me right in the heart, because it was an incident just recently where I called the police on the owner because he took some money out of my car and he wasn't trying to give it back. When they pulled up, I had my hands in my pocket. I described what I had on the phone. When they pulled up, they got out the car. I stated my name. I gently took my hand out to shake the hand like a man, and he pulled his gun on me. I ended the situation. You know, I don't even want to, he can keep the money. I could have been the only thing I could say to him is I could have been your son. I could have been your grandchild. And I just described what I had on because if you do a police call, they ask you that. And I could have died. So, man, I appreciate you, N-Q. And I really wish a lot of my people can hear that, because they would feel, man. And I really hope a lot of you all heard and felt that, like, every Black person, not a criminal, everybody that's from a low income community, man, is not a bad person. It's just where we grew up, and it's just what we have. We had different, we would do much better. And that's a promise. So I appreciate you.
Q, I had to learn these things and could feel the poem at a level now that I wouldn't have been able to experience before. That's what Brian Stevenson calls proximity. You know, I got close. I fell in love with these kids. I taught them. I walked the streets with them. I've seen police situations that scare the life out of me because it could have taken the life out of them. How did you feel this poem come to you? Was there an experience for you?
Thank you, man. Thank you for saying that. It makes me emotional as well. And yeah, I just, you know, this isn't a Black problem. This is an American problem. And yet we allow them to carry the weight for this by themselves. And it's just unacceptable, and it's disgusting, and it's heartbreaking. And this particular piece I wrote after the Freddie Gray incident, and I knew I was going to get it wrong because I have to imagine it because I didn't experience it. And so inherently, if you're going to write a piece about something that you didn't experience, it's going to be naive and it's going to be wrong in some ways. But I also think that people are so afraid to get it wrong that they don't get involved in the conversation. And part of the reason that this is happening is because we've all stopped for almost 4 months. The consumerism is, you know, grinded to a halt, the wheels of consumerism, which is just basically meant to distract us from ourselves and to distract us from the system. And when you can't make $1 and you can't spend $1, you can't watch sports, you can't go to a concert, and you can't go to a movie or, you know, go on vacation, you start to look around, you know, and you start to say, is this working for me? And it's not working for so many people. And it's a part of the system being created. It is baked into the foundation. You can't have capitalism the way it is without colonialism. They're intertwined because of how this country was made. And until we all face it as an American problem, it's not going to change. And I hope that people don't look away from this moment, me included, by the way, because there's different levels of privilege. There's people who think they should be privileged. There's racists, just completely racist people out there. You see it all the time now. Trump's made it okay. And then there's people who are like unconsciously racist, who don't even think that privilege exists. And then there's a lot of people who think that privilege does exist, like me. I know privilege exists. I write about it in my work. But I have the luxury to not think about it all the time. And so what happens is people get distracted and they go back into their lives, and Jamon has to carry that for me. And I just refuse for that to be the case anymore for my own life. And I would just encourage anyone that's listening to do anything you can to be involved in the conversation, whether that's going out and protesting, whether that's signing petitions, whether that's having difficult conversations, whether that's doing your own research and education, whether that's making a more diverse friend group, whether that's donating, whatever it is, whether it's voting. You know, we can't sit on sidelines anymore. It's not fair, man. It's just not fair. It's unacceptable.
Yeah. I bring a group of kids to the Telluride Film Festival every year. One of the most privileged, if I may say, whitest towns in America is Telluride, good-hearted, but has not diversified. So I bring kids like Jamon, Chris, who you met last week, and others. And we talk to our communities. Some of you are on that, are in those conversations. And Chris was crying last year and said, "You're going to forget us. We're in front of you now. You see, you can't deny the beauty of Jamond, but he's in front of you. And then when we go away and Jamond goes away, it's not me, it's Jamond carries it, as In-q said. You forget about us. And I hope we're being called to a place where you can't forget anymore. Everything that we do. If you look at the capital skyline of Washington, D.C., where I grew up, you're looking at slave labor. Pretty much all infrastructure throughout the country, whether train, rail, or road system, you're looking at slave labor. Slave labor built our economy. It was built on 3 industries: sugar, cotton, and rice, all slave labor. It set the foundation for our stolen land. Was Wall Street, sold to the Dutch. Natives didn't feel that there could be such a sale, so they said $24 worth of trinkets, no big deal. They didn't realize that in the mental illness that came with Europeans, that they thought, no, we're kicking you out. We're making a thing called Wall Street. We're walling you out. It's all built on the backs of indigenous and black labor that was stolen. And so when you go tonight for the walk in your neighborhood, just understand that Jamond's ancestors built that, at least the access to your neighborhood. And I run back to that city because it's pulsing with promise. And I've benefited from this nation by being able to tell stories that some of you have connected with. And the resources that came to me are now theirs. And I run back because there's so much promise and beauty. I promise if you come, again, it's not just about Memphis Rock, it's about any community that you can connect with that's in front of you. I promise you, you won't forget us once you're there, once you get close.
You know what I heard the other day that I didn't know, and then I'm embarrassed that I didn't know this, but it's a good piece of information to walk away with. The idea of 40 acres and a mule wasn't just a concept. It was signed into law by Lincoln. And then when he was assassinated, the next person that got in reversed it. Just think about how different this country would be if that had gone through. This isn't charity. This was the atrocities of slavery. Where does wealth come from? It comes from generational wealth, land. I mean, the whole entire country would have been different had he not been assassinated and that had actually gone through. And it should be different because as Jamon was talking, I was thinking, this is a genius. What you said about, the past not predicting your future. I mean, that's such a beautiful, eloquent way to put that concept, that when people project things onto you, they're forcing their projection into your future. And think about how much worse off America is because of not having all of these geniuses have equal opportunities to create and manifest in this country and in this world.
Yeah. As I said last week, I used to live in the beaches of Malibu because the beauty draws people from all over the world. But the genius that you just spoke of, In-q, makes the Malibu beaches pale. As Emerson says, they shame the brook, meaning the beauty that's in them is so powerful, it even shames nature's beauty. And they just need a little support, investment, move in. You moved into Jamon's life tonight, whether you realize it or not. You moved in a little bit. And I promise you that that's just layer one. It goes real deep.
Yeah.
Are you guys ready for a question?
If I am, if Q, I hope it goes to them, but go with God.
Armand, did you want to say something though? I saw you were about to.
Yeah, man. I just wanted to say, piggyback off something you just said. That wealth is generational. So pain, sufferance,
Hmm.
and debt is generational to a lot of Black people because we didn't get that. So, like, I just wanted to say that, like, that what was handed down to me. I was handed down pain, the same pain my great grandmother felt. I'm suffering the same way she's suffering, seeing my people die. I feel the same pain they felt back then because the same stuff is happening. That's generational as well. You know, it just doesn't happen today. When you see something, it gets passed on from generation to generations. And I really want to stop that. I want to stop that in Soulsville. I want to break that curse. So thank you for letting me speak, man.
Okay, Nicole, I guess.
Thank you, Jamond. Heather, RAITZ, if you're on the call, please unmute yourself and please make sure to keep it to a concise question. Heather, if you're on, are you there? Heather? All
Did
right.
she
Well,
write the question down? Maybe you could just.
yeah, she sent me the question.
Yeah, here. Took
Hey,
me a minute.
Heather. Okay.
Hi there. Hi.
Okay, thanks. Just please keep
Yeah.
it to the question. Thanks so much.
Yeah, I will. Thank you so much. Yeah, I was just I sent Nikki and Tom or Nicole and Tom a email over the weekend, and it was my question is how to not lose the momentum of being like burnt out from this collective rage and providing, you know, empathy. And, you know, I do, I'm a therapist and I primarily do trauma work. So it's this collective trauma. So how do you, Tom, like with your lens, provide, you know, self-care insights into making a difference and helping that change, you know, happen in this.
Thank you for the question, Heather. I'll give you a perspective, but I really want Jamon to speak to this, and I also want In-q. I'm going to ask you to both speak to this as well for your own process. One thing is, I spoke to Jamon today for 10 minutes, and that's all the infusion of light that I needed. I get doses of that light all the time, and because their promise touches me, it reinvigorates me. But also, I have to get out of my own way. This movement isn't on my back, and it's not on anyone's back here. All we can do is our part. And then we have to trust that this universal intelligence will use the collective energies to do what it needs to do, and it's his or her timing. Taking on too much is a product of the ego. It's on me, it's all me. I feel, you know, we were talking this morning about guilt. Guilt is an access point, but it's not a long-term emotion. It drags you down. Feel the sadness, feel the pain, feel the difficulties. But guilt is, again, I believe, a product of the ego saying, I'm not perfect. Well, no one's perfect. Welcome to humanity. Let go of that idea of perfect, own your own challenges, and then move. Jamon, I'd love to hear what you think, or Q, if you want, In-q, if you want to talk, and then Jamon. Jamon, you want to speak to it?
I would say just start by doing what you're doing now, which is asking questions. You know, because a lot of us, or a lot of people around us, we're unheard. You know, sometimes all you need is someone to listen to. So just start by asking questions. You know, listening, and then you kind of find your own way. But that would be my best thing. Just ask questions. You know, my mom used to always say, God gave us 2 ears, but we used one of them. So ask questions, and you'll be all right.
Thank you. Thank you.
You want to speak to it for us?
Yeah, I'll just briefly say that compassion is something that you have to practice. It's like a muscle. You have to build it. And it's not a point, it's a range. You have to keep continuing to go back to it consciously every single day. And just because something's not a problem for you doesn't mean it's not a problem. You know? And I wasn't specifically directing that towards you. I meant the universal you.
And the command is to love your neighbor as yourself. You still must take time for that walk, that meditation, that yoga discipline, whatever it is that restores your heart. Jamon's part of my yoga. And then bring that relit self into what Jamon said, maybe the next question. That's all maybe we need to ask our questions for a while. What don't I know is a great way to start. When I came to the neighborhood, it's just like, wow, keep talking, because you just fill me up with what I don't know. And I'm still being filled.
Tom, could I offer something into the space?
Sorry.
Hey guys, we're gonna keep it to the questions right now. We appreciate it, but we're gonna try and get through as many people right now. So
another answer to the question.
I'm sorry.
We're gonna just keep it to the Sorry guys, we're just gonna try and keep it to the questions for people right now.
Maybe frame it in form of a question.
Yeah, if we can do. In-q, would you be willing to read Protect and Serve for everybody? How do you feel about that one? Oh, we can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, I mean, I'll do it. It's just another extremely heavy piece. But, you know, really it's just another piece about what I was just speaking about, which is compassion, which is just imagining yourself in different circumstances. So, I mean, I wouldn't say I'm happy to do it. I'll do it.
Yeah, then let's pick one that you.
I hate the poem. I mean, I hate it, you know?
In-q, is there one that you would think might provide a different flow, or one that comes to your heart no,
I mean, look, this is where we are, and it's where we should be, and we should all be uncomfortable. You know, we should be uncomfortable right now. So. All right, let me find it.
142.
Okay. I don't know what it takes to put on a uniform, to risk your life for a stranger, to wake up every day and shield us from the danger, to protect and serve. But those are the words: to protect and serve, to protect, to keep safe from harm or injury, to serve, to perform duties or services for another person. Does everyone feel protected? Does everyone feel served? Or do some people feel unsure, insecure, and unnerved? When cops pass you on the street, are you harassed or disturbed, pulled over, pulled out of your car, and cuffed on the curb? Did you fit the description? Were you driving while Black? Were you walking while Black? Were you talking while Black? Were you breathing while Black? Were you living while Black? Were you unarmed and running when they shot you in the back? Did your mother have a funeral? Was everyone in black? Was she crying at the coffin? Did they have to hold her back? Did they put you on a shirt? Did they wear you on a hat? Did your name become a hashtag when you were more than that? Or maybe you were mourning someone close, but every pew was packed. So instead of sitting down, you wound up standing in the back. Did you know someone who died for nothing more than being Black? Did you know someone who died for the crime of being Black? Are you scared of your protectors? Do you think they might attack? Did you have to tell your children how to speak and how to act? Did you have to sit them down and explain the painful facts? The uniforms are blue, but the body's brown and Black. Don't make any sudden moves. Answer everything they ask. Don't raise your voice to make a point. You have to stay relaxed. These are survival skills beyond your economic class. These are survival skills if you're alive and you're Black. If the sirens start flashing and you have to interact, keep your hands on the wheel, keep your eyes on the dash. Only get your license and your registration if they ask. Don't put yourself in jeopardy for arguing while Black. If you've done nothing wrong, it can escalate fast. If you reach for your phone or you ask for their badge, you don't want to go viral for dying while Black. You don't want to be famous for dying while Black. And you don't want to watch the officer get off with a slap when it's someone that you love and they're never coming back. I don't know what it takes to put on a uniform, to risk your life for a stranger, to wake up every day and shield us from the danger, to protect and serve.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, it's a painful time, everyone. There's a lot of pain in that poem as well. And you know, if you've ever taken any class that I've been a part of, that pain and passion come from the same root word, pati. And the pain that is happening now can be transformed into the passion for a new way to do things, for a new involvement in people like Jamon's life and communities that Joy represents, Joy Johnson. It's potentially a beautiful afterbirth time that's coming. Maybe if we just ask the right questions.
Yeah, I just want to say my heart is really heavy, but I'm tentatively hopeful. I don't even know if that's the right word, but it's the only word that comes to mind, because I've been out there in the protests, not like other people have. They've been out every single day, all day long, but I have been out there, and I've been out there a few times, and to feel the energy of so many people coming together and standing up, and every civil rights leader that we all know, you know, when I watch them on the news, they're saying that it's unlike any time that they've ever experienced. And so this is our opportunity. You know, the time is now. And that's why I'm tentatively hopeful. And it's clear also with all the viruses, this virus, the coronavirus, you know, how we're operating in the world with unchecked capitalism. I'm a capitalist to the standpoint that I think I consider myself a conscious capitalist. I don't even necessarily know what that means, but what I know is it's unsustainable to have unconscious capitalism. You know, it's become cannibalism. And you see this in the environment, you know. And for a person to make a systemic change, even in their own life, they usually have to face some sort of a trauma. And it's something that kind of wakes them up and shakes them up out of their normal pattern and allows them to see their lives differently. And in that period of time, they have an opportunity to make real change. You know, but real change isn't an idea or an emotion, it's action. So that's why, you know, as my friend Ajor would say, being an ally is a verb, it's an action. But if they fall asleep again, they might not get another chance to change for another 20 years. Literally 20 years could pass by before they have another opportunity. And an individual is like a collective. And this is our collective trauma, all of this. And it's our opportunity to wake the fuck up. Because if we fall asleep again, I mean, look, this virus, for example, the coronavirus at least, is not an existential threat to humanity. And it's not, by the way, brought about anything that didn't already exist. It's not like the coronavirus created all this. It just brought to light all of the problems in our existing system. But, you know, humanity is not going to end from this. But if we fucking fall asleep again, in 20 years, we're going to wake up and, you know, climate change doesn't care about our nations either. And it is an existential threat. And it's going to take all of us realizing our humanity, all of us realizing that we are a part of an ecosystem. You know, we are not above everything. We are not the highest form of life. Life is meant to evolve. It's just going to continue to evolve. And we have to decide how we want to evolve. And the first thing with what we're dealing with right now is to start to see each other, to care about each other.
Let me play a role that I don't usually play. I'm going to take the cynical side of this because I agree with everything that In-q said. But I want to push us from the polarity of the other side because, you know, I'm at least 10 years older than most of you, if not 20 and plus. And I've been around longer and I've seen the Eric Garners and I've seen all the way, you know, I was a pup, you know, when the 60s were happening, and that was a promised generation to dedicate themselves to love, who became the next magnates on Wall Street. And this isn't a judgment, it's just an assessment of our history. And the distractions are going to come fast and furious. You can already see it starting to shift from 100%. Wow, this world is in flames. Now there's a couple distraction articles. Look at this over here and look at that over there. And they're going to come fast and furious. And like In-q said, the wake up call, if this isn't it, if you want to consider this a slap across the face, the next one could be a sucker punch like you've never felt, or even an arrow through the heart. What kind of world do we want? We each have to start daily doing what we can to live that world. So I wanted to provide the cynical side because 6 months from now, if this was like a couple nice pieces of legislation came out, we got chokeholds banned, we got, you know, knees on the neck banned, et cetera. We did some reform and then we forgot about it. We've missed our moment, and that's possible. But let's not miss the moment.
I don't hear that as cynical. It's that to me is realistic optimism. You know, that's looking at the reality of the situation, because it is very easy for people to fall asleep again, you know, and allow us to continue to, you know, profit off of the suffering of people on the planet over and over again. But the point is in this particular case, when we're talking about racism, Jermon doesn't have the luxury to fall back asleep again because his life is on the line. And that's what you were saying earlier. And so I'm going to do everything I can to not fall asleep with you, man, to just fucking stand with you as much as I can, whatever that means, you know?
Guys, we have a question from John Wallbank. John, if you're on, if you could please just unmute yourself and remember to keep it to a question. We appreciate it. Are you here, John?
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me, and I really appreciate. It's almost like I have to take a breath and take in all of it. In-q and John were saying. I could go in if there's interest in why I have the question. It's something that Father Greg Boyle came to bat to help solve, but we have some pettiness in our community, and I'm reminded that the hardest thing for a psychotherapist to address is not antisocial personality disorder or other really malicious type disorders, but an avoidant personality disorder, are ones that keep a person from getting help. And so what do you do with broader disorders where people don't want to listen, they don't want to interact, they don't come into the office, they don't open up their ears, they avoid you? And I know there's the obvious answer of you give a good model, you show them by example, you might try to use their language, you might try to use a reference point of someone that they admire. But I'd like to hear other stories, other views of when there was someone who was resistant and was oblivious and wanted to avoid it. And I think sometimes there's a good reason underneath it. It might be like the couple that breaks up and one doesn't want to speak to the other because there's some real love remaining there. It's painful. They want to block it off totally. And I think sometimes a person's conscience can be bothering them and they look really insulated. And we have to have hope. We have to give them benefit of a doubt and say, well, in time, with patience, forgiveness, some warmth and mercy, maybe they'll pay attention. But sometimes you need to act with urgency because the matter is urgent. There's people's lives at risk. So I'm wondering if any of you three have some wisdom, some examples to share.
I actually, man, it's crazy that you brought that up. I actually just lost a cousin who was dealing with the same things. And we just buried him last week. He was dealing with mental illness, and he killed himself and his wife of 15 years. And that go back to the thing of me just saying, asking questions and just listening. My biggest thing, he was the person of the family, if I could go to him, he was the person of the family that everyone depended on. And those are usually the people with the biggest character personalities because they have a lot of things on their shoulders, so they have to pretend to be happy in front of you. But the weight and depression and the darkness, it overweighs them sometimes. And that situation for me, it overweighed him in the end of his life. So what I would say, man, is just ask questions. Even when they run away, you don't have to beat them down about it. Leave it alone. They say it's nothing, leave it alone. Go back 2 or 5 minutes like, hey man, you sure you're all right? You sure you're okay? You can talk to me. Anything you need. I used to function with personality disorder because of the gang life. It creates a monster. It makes a person that you have to snap out of. And I had to snap myself out of that. And one of the things that helped me was my oldest cousin just asked, man, you all right? You seem stressed, you always tense. You okay? All right, that's cool. He called me at 12 in the morning. And if you got that person's number, or if they trust you like that, call them, man. Pick at them, not too hard, but pick at them. And I'm pretty sure, man, they will boil over like an egg. They'll get soft like an egg. I promise you. I promise you.
I'll just give one quick response. I happen to be blessed with knowing and studying Father Gregory Boyle for years. He's a 32-year model of what we've been trying to do for a few years. He came and visited our facility. We became fast brothers, me very much in the little brother category. And he just said, Tom, it's slow work. It's just slow work. And then you have to trust that it's not on your timeline, that it's on God's timeline, whatever you consider God. And he's had people return 5 and 6 times. They come in, they go back to the gang life, they go back to banging, they fall again, they go to prison, they come back. Problem at home, they go back to the but he trusts. He has the most radical saying that I've yet to find a way to live into, but I'm hopeful. I don't mind what happens. Imagine that. I don't mind what happens. I so trust. I know it's a tough one, but that man's never run out of energy because he's not putting the results on himself. He shows up every day with love, and then he puts the results in the hands of a higher power.
I guess I'll just say, as I'm listening to the police sirens in the background, you know, that's why people are talking about defunding the police. It's really what that terminology really means is stop being problem oriented and start being solution minded. Do you want to deal with the problems, you know, and put all your money towards the problems? Or do you want to actually look at why the environment exists that way and where the problems are coming from by being solution minded before the problems even wind up existing? And yeah, it is slow work, but it also is exponential work.
Guys, we're gonna have to wrap this up pretty soon, so I just wanted to see if there's anything, Jamon, Tom, In-q, that you guys wanted to share right now. Anything that's on your heart that you haven't been able to share that you want to talk about, whether that's, you know, defunding the police conversation or anything along those lines.
Jamon, do you want to share anything?
Yeah,
With
I
your new
think,
family, looking around at your new family.
yeah, I see, and I hope you all accept me, and don't just, you know, I always like to say, you know, don't just let this be over the phone. Actually come and see this place that I call home. You know, see why I'm fighting to keep it surviving. Meet these kids. You know, taste the food. You know, there'll be another thing that brings you back. Memphis ain't nothing like that barbecue. But defunding the police would be, especially, I would say, especially in Memphis, man, be a wonderful job, because you would see a new squad car faster than you would see potholes covered in the road. You get what I'm saying? A lot of the fun that we're doing for the police, we should be doing on the streets and towards Black neighborhoods, Latina neighborhoods, low-income Caucasian neighborhoods, low-income communities. Put more businesses up. All of that money we're giving to them for cars, guns that they're killing us with, you could be helping me and my people and other people have a grocery store right across the street instead of going 16 to 17 blocks for it. So I think that's a wonderful idea, man. That was actually my first time even hearing of that. I would have been aboard 6 or 7 years ago, man. So yeah.
I'll say something. Q, why don't you take the last word? I've been so touched. I think we've all been so touched by your heart tonight. Let's give you the last word. And again, just the first word, I hope, to more action. I'm gonna tell you just a little bit about my heart. I'm out. Like I came to Memphis with a certain amount of resources, and I figured that people would help. But Jamon's not kidding when he says that people don't see him. And nobody's helped. I mean, we've gotten a little bit. I don't want to say nobody. That's an exaggeration, but certainly we haven't gotten the support that we need. They're used to not seeing these kids. They don't look like their kids. They don't see that promise that we saw in Jamon tonight because they don't take the time. The most we get, they call us turkey people. You come, you deliver a turkey at Thanksgiving, you go back to your church, you never see them again. They never get close to people like that. They're used to turkey people. They don't open their hearts. And this is the most valuable asset we have in this country and in this world. And I hope that if anything comes out of this difficult time of labor, that even this little conversation and what you're seeing on TV and the people you're meeting in conversations, whether in protests or in Zoom calls, you're starting to see where our investment needs to go. It doesn't have to be money. It can be time. It can be a letter. It can be a relationship. The most important thing is relationship. Just relationship. It said in The Nutty Professor, relations. It's a richness. Last point I want us to think about. It's not my point. I listened to a lot of great speakers today, from MLK to James Baldwin. And Baldwin said this: as terrible as the scarring on the Black community is, as terrible as what we've robbed them from, the community that has shut them out may have suffered even more, because they've lost part of their humanity. We've lost our connection with the beauty of a brother and a sister. And that is a kind of poverty that James Baldwin said may be more costly than what you're seeing show up in the pain of the Black community. And we have to be proactive in healing that. Cute.
Yeah, I have two things to say, but Jamon, thank you very much, man. It was a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for everything you said. You touched my heart here tonight, and my door is wide open to you, man. So we'll connect afterwards. And Tom and Nicole, thank you both so much for having me. It really is an honor to be here with you guys tonight. I know it's a difficult conversation, but it's time for difficult conversations. So I hope that it doesn't stay in the Zoom call and it continues to expand. And it's okay to be uncomfortable. It's actually good to be uncomfortable, because that's the only way that real change starts to happen. So, wear your discomfort with pride. Don't, put it away. My friend Sonia Renee said something the other day that I thought was really powerful. And I just want to leave this with everyone, and then I'll say one more thing. She basically said that we should, as white people, we shouldn't be, well, she's a Black woman, but she was saying white people should not be talking about the Black experience right now. For the most part, white people should be exploring within themselves why white people have continued to be okay with the systemic racism and inequality. What is it in us all individually, whether we consciously have it or unconsciously have it, that we've been okay with that? And that we need to really take a very good look in the mirror. And I'm literally talking to myself right now. So I'm just sharing that because I thought it was a really good point. Last thing I'll say is that there's been a lot of loss. I mean, just an unbelievable amount of loss in a very short period of time. And yet you can't really have love without loss. Those things are completely intertwined. They're infused. And if you think about it, your whole life is really about loss. I mean, no matter what you make, no matter what you create, no matter what you build, no matter what your relationships are, you get married, you have kids, you do great at a job, in the end, you give it all up. And in the very end, you give up your identity, you give up your body, you go somewhere where we're not exactly sure where. We have ideas, we have beliefs. We don't really know where we go. And as crazy and scary as that sounds, it also is partly what makes life so beautiful, is that we're not going to be around forever. And this moment right now that we're living in is the only moment that we're sure that we have. This next breath that we take. Everybody, let's all take a breath together, actually. Let's all take a breath. Ready? That breath is the never-ending now. That's the only thing that we know that we have. And so I don't want to let the risk of loss get in the way of me loving. I want to love harder. I was on a conversation with somebody the other night, and they were saying, because I was talking about a poem that I'm doing for a thing, and in the end of the poem, it ends with love. And the person was like, I don't think we should end the video with love because it's soft. And I was like, what world are you living in that love is soft? Love is hard. Life is hard. Loving is hard. So love harder. Love yourselves harder. Love the people around you harder, your family, your friends, your community. Love the people that you don't know harder. Love the people that you don't like harder. You know, because if anything, I hope that more compassion and empathy comes out of this difficult time, because that's what the world needs most right now.
Thank you guys. In-q, Tom, Jamon, thank you guys so much. This is In-q's book. I can't recommend it more. This is not just that we want to share and push In-q's book. This literally is, I read a poem every night before I go to bed. He shared 2 of them from the book today. I put the link in there if you guys want to check it out. We're also going to send it to 2 people, so I'll announce who we're going to randomly pick, and we'll send you guys the book. But thank you guys so much for today, for joining us.
Real quick, Nicole, I just want to plug his book. I've turned a ton of you on to Mary Oliver, who I was blessed to be a friend of. And In-q is Mary Oliver in disguise in today's vernacular. And that's the highest compliment that I can give, because Mary Oliver was Walt Whitman in today's form. And this is a Walt Whitman that can relate to the modern day language and vernacular. And it will open you, and it will challenge you and change you.
Thank you all. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We hope you have a great night. Love harder. Love harder. Thank you.
Peace, everybody.